additional information that the committee requested at our meeting last week. So we do have those. I don't know if anybody has any questions about those or anything they want to bring up.
It wasn't just some questions.
There were a lot of questions.
Listen, you can't accuse me of not thoroughly reviewing budgets, so keep in mind.
You worked me hard.
He was rumbling in his office.
There we go. Yeah. And actually, with those, I did have a follow-up question, or if you want to, something that wasn't clear. So I know you had, actually Jen had a question about, it was 6:30, it was the equipment and the radios.
Okay.
And I know that was touched on last week, but when I looked at the information and looked at last year's budget, I know we bought, I think a dispatch radio that was stationed in Hudson a couple of years ago.
Right, yeah.
And then last year in 2017, we bought about $40,000 in additional radios because we have vehicle and
portables.
portables. But what's not clear, because another 40,000 is in this budget, what's not clear is how many were bought in 2017, how many are expected to be bought this year, how many are expected to be bought in the budget request. So if we could get that number, just kind of a breakdown of where we are, what we intend to buy this year, and what this budget is going to buy for next year. Because it's hard to tease that out.
I thought he said he bought the consulate already. He bought the station. He's doing truck by truck, so it's a mobile, and then the portables that go with that mobile.
Yeah.
Truck.
When you look at the detail, though, I guess the part that confuses me is that last year in the budget was $40,000 for replacement portables. This year's budget for 2019 is $40,000, but we spent $36,000 in December of 2017. So did we pre-buy those?
Probably wait till the end of the year.
He buys the radios at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Right. So, but then that would be $120,000 worth of radios. And I mean, I'm not.
No, I don't think he's even spent this year's yet, right? Because he's waiting till the end of the year to do it.
I don't believe he's bought this year's yet.
Right. There's.
So that's where trying to figure out what was bought in
53,000 left in that
2017,
account
what
this
is
year.
going to be purchased this December, and then what is this budget, so we can.
I'll work with him. That should be easy.
Yeah,
It could be that base radio that you talked about, I think that was 2 years ago, and it may have been delayed and hit in the same, it may have been encumbered or something and hit the same year.
Yeah,
And that's
like,
why you're seeing a double amount.
I know the dispatch radio in Hudson was budgeted 2 years in a row, and the first year it couldn't be bought for whatever reason to do with Hudson's construction. So I know there was a delay there, but I don't think that's this,
Okay.
and that's what I'm trying to figure out. So that.
The important part, it's multi-year, so I think it's a 4-year implementation plan. So
So that would be good to see too. If there's literally a plan.
let's them have them clarify.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems $40,000 a year for 4 years seems like
It's still a lot of radio.
a lot of radio.
Have you seen the price tag of a Motorola radio?
So I did do a quick Google search.
Yep.
And my Google search would mean we have 120 radios right now.
So the consulate, for example, what they use in the PD, which we just purchased,
Mhm.
that's one base radio. It's really a mobile with a power supply. It's $12,000.
Okay.
That's what that one radio costs. Every one of the cars, I believe, costs. Chief, the cars are like, what are the cost of the car radios?
About $4,000 a piece.
Yeah, they're $4,000 to $5,000
$4,000
installed because there's also programming. Motorola doesn't let you get away for free.
Sure.
So you got to program it. So it's $5,000 per vehicle. Then you get all the portables. The portables run anywhere from 12 to 2, I think it is.
3,200.
Yeah. Okay. So they're expensive.
Yeah.
But even still,
And I get that, but then he
160,000
said
ends up
in-
being like a lot of them.
There's a lot. Well, you think about it. You think about the radios. That pretty much every firefighter gets a radio because they need it on command and on scene stuff like that. So we'll let the chief figure it.
Yeah,
The chief
let's get
break
the
it. He can break it
breakdown.
down by
Just
type and cost.
on
Yeah,
that
and,
point.
and year, like you said, if there's literally a plan, that would be helpful too. So we can say year 1, this is purchased, year 2, and get an idea, because it is hard to track.
Yeah.
No, we'll get a plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Was there anything else under correspondence that anybody had a question about or wanted to follow up on? All right.
Sorry, just one more.
Go ahead.
What prompted the review of the chief's salary?
New contract year.
It was negotiations.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, based on when we started negotiations, typical negotiations, both sides are asking for certain demands, and it was obvious that we needed to make sure we knew what the market rate was for a fire chief.
And so the rate that was decided upon was a part of the negotiation.
Yes.
Got it. It had already been agreed to by the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, the contract's already been signed.
Do we do periodic updates? Because I noticed we did police chief survey as well. Do we do periodic updates to see where we stand
So
on all of our positions?
as we just started the, this will be the third year into the pay plan that was adopted by the board. So a lot of work went into developing those min, max, and mid ranges.
Mhm.
So we are due now to go ahead and update those ranges. So the problem is when the town really revamped the entire pay scale system, there was a very active, the municipal association, all the communities, towns were very active in keeping the salary survey up to date.
Right.
During all the cutbacks at the municipal association, one of the things that really fell apart was the annual survey. So now you see that there are towns, every time a town does a survey, everyone's doing their own survey information. So it's, the data is just not accessible as it used to be.
So just to simply state, his work is a lot harder now. But we're 5 years into that new plan, and we're 2 years behind renewing it already. So the board originally put together the wage plan was supposed to be reviewed every 3 years.
Mhm.
So we kept on going back to our peer groups, reevaluate, reset the highs and the lows, because we wanted to say what the market. We haven't done that yet, and that's one of the things that Troy's been tasked by the board to get it done, I think, this year, or at least before the next kind of cycle. But to his point, the data is not available to us as easily as it was in the past. We had a single source to go to that took care of all that collection. Now we have to make phone calls and kind of beg through all that.
Right.
So it's a little harder. But remember, we came off of the STEP program, which was a guaranteed incremental rate, incremental amount change, as long as your butt was complete. We went to that performance review, and we had to do something to kind of make it a
Equitable.
good thing for the employees. So
Okay. All right. New business. I don't have anything under new business. So we'll jump right into town presentations.
Okay.
So I don't know. I mean, I put the order down here that you had put, but I know
Yeah,
you
we
like
can.
to.
John Bryant had exchanged emails with me, and he was going to be here, so he might be running late. So I don't know if we'd. What was the order of the library? Were they going to be second?
library was second.
So if we want, we'll, why don't we jump into library,
Sure.
and then we'll just follow the order at that point. If John Bryant comes,
John's here.
he's here.
Wow. Are your ears burning?
And suddenly,
This is only kind of a,
You want
you know,
to
exceed expectations.
Sure. It's easier than you thought.
Everything was killing me.
yeah, the agenda is really kind of a guess. If people talk long, it goes longer. If people don't talk, we get right to the point.
I guess you did.
Mhm.
Welcome.
Thank you.
If you want, John, you want me to just I'll go through some of the highlights, and then you can touch on programs and
Okay.
planned, improvements and stuff. But overall, the Parks and Rec department this year, you'll see the proposal is at $96,248. That's an overall increase of $146 from last year. So really no changes in most of the line items. You have an $800 reduction in electricity, and that's just, again, based on the methodology that we use throughout all the electric accounts throughout this budget. Just take a look at those every year. and do my little average with my 5% increase. So you'll see a note that we've added 500 on top of what I had calculated that I thought the cost would be. And because we're bringing Jeff Lane on board this year, so the concession stand, irrigation, there will be some added electrical costs there. We don't really know what it'll be, but I thought 500 would be a good number for at least the first year. Propane, we're not anticipating any increase in the number of gallons used, but as we all know, the cost increased from $1.34 to $1.61. And that's the price that's negotiated by the school district. So we are able to piggyback that contract. And then I know that there are some questions going on about the chemical toilet rental. And because of that, I was taking a look at those lines, and you'll see that there's a small reduction of $284. But you'll see that every park has a different service time. For example, the Roy Memorial Park, we actually leave a toilet there for 12 months of the year. It's $60. There are times throughout the year, there are many different types of events which require additional services for that toilet. Sometimes we may have to add a couple, and that's kind of captured up above when we say extra services and setup fees. That's where we capture those costs. Sawmill Parks and the Scott Annie's Field, we have them there for 8 months. And Corning Park and Justin Bissett is 7 months. Justin Bissett did not have a toilet this year because it was under construction, but it will have one next year. So, and then I guess, John, you could kind of tell them a little bit about, I know there's some discussion right now with the board, of the commission, with some playground improvements or
I can go a few notes together.
Yeah.
Current updates the rec commission are doing right now. We've got the new river access site that we completed construction on. We've got a few internal things to move some stones over there. All the signage has been paid for through the money we had set aside for it last year. Walking into this year, we have a sophomore at the high school. It is going to do a sophomore project to clean and keep the river access site updated as a sophomore project. River Access Committee hasn't disbanded yet. They've actually volunteered to continue working through next year to see if we can come up with a standard for amount of costs that we're going to incur on maintaining that site. Our goal was to keep it as minimally invasive as possible as far as impacting our budget. We're not looking to mow it like we do the regular fields and so forth. The way the parking lot is set up, it's not really designed to be mowed. It should be a clear walkway all the time. The upgrade to Jeff Lane, the base has now 2 baseball fields over there. Prior to that, it was 2. Calling them practice fields is a statement of limitation. We've expanded the size over there. Volunteers have done some great work on putting up a new shed over there. Our major construction left to do that is across the street from the park. It's a tiny playground. It's going to be moved to the same size as baseball fields, and that land is going to be dropped down to virtually road level and become a parking lot, which will take the impact away from the other side and moving the soil to the side of the field that we are playing on, which will help alleviate some of the limited flooding now, the way they've raised that field up. I mean, it's well over where it used to be. Dara Pond has a new group, I guess I can call it, maybe 6 weeks now, 7 weeks. They've got a playground group that we've been meeting with out there and working with. We've got some playground equipment, replacement equipment on order right now, and mulch to get the playground back up to the levels that are recommended by the state and what the markings are on the actual equipment itself. It's a considerable amount of money, about $2,500 worth of mulch just to get it up to that level. Working with that playground group and the funds this year to get that up to date. The group would like to continue into next year and bring other equipment in. We've got no current swing set over there right now, and they're looking at an ADA swing, as well as there was a little Facebook poll out there they've taken as far as other equipment. I think they posted 7 or 8 items on there, what people are interested in, and they want to carry this into next year's as well. I'm trying to get them to also assist us with Sawmill Brook, because one of the stages of the Sawmill Brook Park is to create a playground down there using impact fees. And I'd like to get this group, if they're already interested in this and assisting us with that, that would be going forward with impact fee funds. Our next 2 items with impact fee funds would be a playground at Sawmill Brook and an additional tennis court, a pair of tennis courts at Sawmill Brook. That's where our impact fees sit now. Basketball courts at Dara Pond still have to be resurfaced and lined. That was in this year's budget. It looks like it's going to hold off until spring of next year. Right now, there was some coordination with the company that was going to do it that hasn't occurred yet. The basketball organization just proposed on Tuesday night, or got approval finally on Tuesday night, to replace 2 of the basketball hoops that are there with a very expensive units that basketball was paying for, with fiberglass backboards. The current basketball hoops that we have there have a lot of spring to them, shall we say. They're very tough to use, and we have a summer league that's gone from, well, no summer league a couple of years ago to 76, I think, players that they had out there this year, which was kind of nice to go. And again, Rec Commission is all volunteers, and we're supported really by the organizations in town. All of our baseball, basketball, blast, flag football, lacrosse, pickleball, soccer, softball, wrestling, adult basketball league, and adult flag football and pickleball are all our organizations that we're working with in town. And all of the organizations, I think the only one that hasn't contributed any money to purchasing something is probably the men's adult basketball that plays down at LMS. They haven't. That's about it. Everybody else is always putting their money where their mouth is with their organizations and supporting us and creating things.
That men's league has been around for a long time.
What's that?
The men's league has been around for a long
It
time.
has.
at
They
LMS.
finally changed who's running the league. It's been the same man for all that time as well.
Wow.
So
All right. I had asked a couple of questions, and I think you touched on some of them. But the reason I asked the questions about field improvements, equipment purchase, and program expenses was it looks as though, so when I look at field improvement, which is line 730, we spent nothing in 2016, nothing in 2017. We approved 5,000 in 2018, and another 5,000 is being asked. But I was concerned we're showing zeros for previous years.
So this current year, that's where the playground
That's
equipment
the
is coming
playground
out of.
equipment is
Yes.
coming out of there. Okay.
We held off last year because we were real concerned that we were going to go over budget with our landscape contract. It was the first year of the contract. We got very
Yes.
comfortable this year that as this summer went on, we weren't incurring new issues. So I'd asked the playground group when we first met, let's wait until after September goes through, and then the money will be available.
Okay.
We'll know it's not going to go somewhere else. I think I mentioned to Troy, we typically hold off on those 2 lines till the fall to see if anything is incurred that would be an expense that we can't handle. A storm that knocks down a bunch of trees we have to pay for, something like that. Those things all seem to occur in the summertime.
Okay, so playground equipment this year, and then next year they're looking to add more playground equipment, so that explains that.
Correct.
740 equipment purchase, same thing. It was $260 in 2016. It was zero 2017. We budgeted 2,500, and again, it's being asked at 2,500. So what comes under equipment purchase there?
It all depends on the year and what we need for equipment. And we've purchased snow blowers in the past out there. We've had equipment such as pumps that have failed. That money's come into that area. It really depends on
So
what
it's more
goes
like
down.
upkeep then,
Yeah.
and not like
Typically,
basketball
it's
hoops kinds of thing.
no. Typically, we won't go with
Okay.
things like that. We'll make the organizations pay for that instead.
Yeah, your ground maintenance contract does not cover all the irrigation
It does not.
pumps and work that
And
require repair without notice. So
to say that this has been our best year over the last 5 or 6 is
Very
an
lucky.
understatement. We paid a little more in our contract than what some of the bids we had. We took the most experienced and consistent bidder that we had coming in. We had a lower bidder that had no experience at this level, and we voted to go with consistency. And my phone has rung only a few times all year, which the previous 1, 2, 3 of the last 5 years had been horrendous. I was getting calls weekly and, different fields, different complaints, different problems. We haven't had that issue this year, which is also, we haven't had the pumps issues that we'd had in the previous years.
Oh, good.
So
Okay, and so then the last one was, again, the 831 program expenses was $950 in 2016, $282 in 2017. And again, we budgeted 1,800, asking another 1,800. So that's why I was trying to figure out.
the big hit on program expenses is we couldn't get enough volunteers to assist with the Winterfest, and that got canceled last year.
Right.
We're trying to bring it back. We don't want to pop the money out of there and not have it available if Winterfest comes through and they get the volunteers. The group said they tried again this year. The ones that we consistently have, the seniors usually give us a phone call in October for their annual meeting. We do have the Thanksgiving football game that puts about $100 towards this program expense going out. The Easter egg hunt usually comes in line and asks for money for this, $120, $150, depending on how many kids they're going to have. And those, it's kind of our wiggle room as we go. We don't, as a group, we don't spend to the bottom line of our budget, but we like to be able to tell people when they walk to the door, hey, yes, we can afford this $100 for you. We just approved $50 out of our fund this year for maintenance towards beautification, I guess, of the river access. They want to put some flowers and pumpkins up, and we're going to have that sophomore handle that. And we approved $50 going to next year for the same thing to see if we can get something cute going there. They were talking about planting tulips and some perennial things at the fence line and at the signs. We'll see how that all goes.
Are you guys working with the people who are doing the Christmas in Litchfield thing? Are they working through the Christmas in Litchfield group? Are they working?
They haven't asked for any money, but yes, they are working with us. I'd forgotten about that one. Sorry. I sent Brent some stuff the other day to give the Lions Club an update, and I forgot all about that group.
All
Trunk or
right.
Treat is the closest group coming up.
Oh, the trick or treat.
There's a Lions Club Trunk or Treat here for over 5, I think, is what they do, and we have a 5 and under that happens at Dare Pond.
All right. Anybody else have any questions for Brooke?
There was one other question about hours. Did you guys want to know the use of hours for talent?
Yeah. How?
So Andy Collins, who's great because he's the one who does all the calendars, varies based on time of year. Middle of the summer, it's as low as 35 hours a week due to the heat in the building. Winter, it's used every day from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. or later, about 90 hours a week. Fall's around 40 hours a week, and spring is about 60 hours a week until fields are open 100%. So somebody'd asked, like an email in their question. So that doesn't include your how many nights and so forth.
Do we find that it's being used more often? Are we increasing usage? Is it stable over the last couple of years?
The last 2 years, 3 years have been pretty stable. Well, it really depends on weather in the spring. If we're tied up inside, then our basketball season ends. And as soon as they're off the court, softball, baseball, and soccer and cross fill every moment we have on that.
Right.
The pickleball organization uses it year round, and they are tremendous about backing off on their use to allow the other organizations in Monday through Friday after school and weekends. When those organizations pull out, pickleball backfills those times again.
Awesome.
So.
Good. All right. Anything else? Been very thorough.
That's it?
Yes. Thank
All right. Timing's perfect. Thank you.
All right. So next item is library. So let's just kind of highlight sheets, and then the budget summary has been updated for the fuel cost that we got in. So I just kind of put the highlight sheet together to hit things that were increasing or decreasing more than $100. So we started out with payroll. Wages reflect the 2018 warrant article, which was the third year of our wage plan implementation. So that's been completed. So we've now added money for merit increases. So this is our first shot with that now that we're off the steps. We've added in health insurance buyout for full-time employees to be phased in over 2 years. And we base that amount on the current single subscriber plan, and the trustees wanted to keep it flat, so they don't intend to increase it every time insurance costs go up. They just wanted, to have the stipend sort of what it is there and leave it there. I'm sorry,
Yep,
can you
that's
just
okay.
explain that again? So the health insurance buyout has not been previously offered?
No,
Okay,
so it's now being offered,
okay.
but we aren't doing it the way the town does it, nor the way the school does it.
Okay.
So to speak. So they decided to go with, no matter whether you would qualify for a single, 2-person or family plan, that it would be based on the single person plan, which is a little over $4,000 right now. And so they decided to go with $4,000 flat, and it won't increase each year that insurance costs go up.
So the goal is to bring it to a $4,000 buyout.
For per person, yes.
And what prompted this change in policy?
So the Library of Trustees, by the way, I'm Cecile Bondwoudois, I'm the chair of the Library of Trustees, and we have been discussing over the course of the past year or two the importance of the librarians having some sort of insurance policy available to them or a buyout. Why we came to that conclusion is that many libraries throughout the state now define full-time as 24 to 40 hours, although many libraries only employ people at about 30 to 32 hours. So right now we have 4 people at 32 hours. We have our director, the head of children's services, the head of adult services, and an assistant librarian. And just historically, our library director has been there 20 years. The second 32-hour person has been there 15 years, and the third person has been there 13 years. So they have gone without any benefits in that way. And we just felt as a board, we wanted to vote to make full-time employment now at 32 hours. So the board, we feel, as a board of trustees, that these employees, these full-time employees deserve health benefits. And if they don't take them, then they deserve the buyout.
So one of my concerns with that would be, do we not have people at town hall at 32 hours who are not subject to benefits?
So
So how does this play in if the library is saying full-time's 32 hours and we have people elsewhere within the town that are also at 32 hours but not considered full-time?
So library employees are, they're under the control of the trustees. So they're separate. They have their
No, I
own
understand.
personnel policy.
Well, one of the
So
reasons we did the wage plan was to bring them in line with the town, but now we're diverging from the town. So are we going
That's,
with
but that was the library's decision, not.
So I'm just saying, what position does this put us in other situations where people are like, well, this person works 32 hours and isn't eligible, but they're over here, they are.
It's something that, I've talked to the board about and about the fact that we have part-time employees who are grandfathered and are eligible for health insurance, at a 50% of the cost.
Mhm.
And all benefits were eliminated, paid holidays, earned time, and health insurance for employees who are hired after a certain date.
Mhm.
I can't remember that date. And recently I've got some feedback from staff that with part-timers that they have in their departments, are looking for some benefits. So knowing that the library trustees are doing this, there's a conversation I'm going to have with the Board of Selectmen. I don't know
Right.
if health insurance is going to be on the table or if we're going to be looking at earned time and some paid
Right,
holidays.
My concern is doing this here is going to incur costs elsewhere, unintended consequences. So I'm not saying that people aren't, I'm not going to go entitled or deserved, but would not appreciate and are not appreciated in that respect. I'm concerned about the unintended consequences as a result. I'm wondering if it makes more sense to put it before the voters. I mean, this is a big change, with long-term ramifications.
So what is the definition of full-time? I know you said that.
So
32 hours.
Right, 32. I mean, cost effectively to increase their hours to 40 to then give them benefits is not the route for us to go. So right now we voted in that 32 hours is considered full-time. So we have 4 employees that are considered full-time. And some of those people, part of what's bringing it up is some of them may need to access health insurance. And we don't want them to leave their employment to go somewhere else where they're offered that benefit. We're very happy with the employment at the library right now. And so we want to be able to offer them this. And what we decided to do to compromise so that it wasn't a major is first stick with the single, make it like a single versus a family. Because a family, when we looked at using just here in this building, what people are getting, the family is substantially larger. So we were like, okay, first of all, we'll start by saying they get the single. But the other thing is we decided to do it in a 2-year process rather than just, taking a plunge and saying, let's give it to them across the board. We're trying to look at how can we give them this well-deserved benefit that will hopefully retain them, and do it in a 2-year period so that it's more practical and frugal. So that's what we're looking at. And
So Troy, what is the definition of full-time at the town level?
Our definition is an employee who works 40 hours.
40 hours.
So I understand the intention. I would think, though, that an alternative way of ensuring that people have enough money would be to look at raising the hourly wage. I mean, I'm concerned about starting a precedent that will have ramifications throughout. So if the concern is people can't afford health insurance, then why not make it up through rate in another way, which would be rate, further increases to salary.
Well, when we went on to the wage plan,
Mhm.
that was based on current wages in the library's
Mhm.
world, so to speak. So raising wages would be putting people above what the market pays, which I've never really considered you to like that kind of thing. But and the 32 hours comes from the fact that, we aren't open 5 full days a week. We're open 4 full days and a half day.
right.
And in other libraries that are small like ours, where they're running in the same situation, everybody, the most they're going to work is 30, 32. They use 32 as their full time because, for that situation, that is full time.
Right. And again, the other option is that if somebody needed to access it, they wouldn't be able to if they got a wage increase. So we want to make it so that they have that venue should they choose to do that. If somebody, is in a position where they no longer can depend on their spouses, health insurance, we want to be able to supply that to them.
So was the decision to make this change based on fear of attrition and folks leaving you and information that you had?
No. But I think what in sitting on the chair, sitting on the board and looking at the way some of our employees are functioning in their position and their dedication, and then looking at the benefits they're not getting, no retirement, no disability. It's like we need to really, step up here, because I know in the corporate world, which is where I work, that we do get benefits at 30 plus hours.
Was there any consideration to looking at the full-time, part-time mix and saying what the library needs is 2 full-time working at 40 hours or 36 hours and then 2 part-time?
Sure, that was looked at, but we can't function that way. We have,
Yeah.
the library is on 2 levels, so we have to have 2 people in the building at all times so that we're not leaving a floor empty.
Sure.
And so to cover a 10-hour day, it just doesn't work out to do that.
And the other thing is when you look at the head of children's services and head of adult services, they really have distinct roles. So keeping them at 32 hours on different floors, it really is a distinction what their responsibility. It's not like one of them could pick up a portion of the other person's position. It would just be, it wouldn't be fluid.
Interesting. I hadn't really thought about it. I just did a quick Google search, and New Hampshire Employment Security designates 35 hours as full-time. And under the Affordable Care Act, 30 hours was designated as full-time. So it does seem as though it's within at least some federal and state definitions.
And I believe the school is 30 hours a week. That's what I've been told.
Oh, we can ask them when we're here. Oh, you might know. The school board liaison might know.
You know what? I do think
35 hours is full-time,
So,
but 30 hours we cap errors and things
Right.
like that, so for the
Yes,
insurance.
Work more than 30.
Oh,
you're eligible by law. for-
everybody works more than they're designated. I never worked 40 hours.
But one of the things that we do as a board of trustees is we're always looking at the way other libraries are functioning, because we think that's a better comparison than to a municipal. Like, how is the town hall doing it?
So, and it's not that I'm opposed to it. I just worry about the precedent we're setting. So to me, the cleanest way to do it would be to put it before the voters and have them say, we authorize consideration of full-time at the library to be 32 hours. And that way it's completely designated that just that way. And it keeps you guys from being pressured from their negotiations. To me, it's not a decision I'd be comfortable making here because I have the long-term
So,
ramifications.
in terms of policy, I don't know that that's the thing you would ask the voters. I do believe that's the purview of that. But what may be a legitimate thing to ask is to have the library offer the buyout and have that be something
Offer
to have
buyout, yep,
the voters weigh in on.
Some way.
But it's something to think about because I'm
My concern is
hearing
doing it
for the
this
first
way.
time.
Yeah, doing it this way opens us up on the other end is my concern. So if there's a way to isolate the decision to the library by saying we, the voters, agree to give employees of the library who work more than 32, up to 32 hours or whatever, 32 hours, the buyout option. That's one thing that gives them, that frees their hands during negotiations because look, they've been authorized to offer it just there.
Something to think about.
I have 2 comments. One, it is the Board of Trustees' responsibility to set the policies and what the hours are. So it's not really the town's
Right.
to do it.
We couldn't
other
do the
thing
funding
is,
though, so I'm
if-
trying to help you.
Oh, no, but the other thing you're talking about, unintended consequences. So the board decided to keep it low compared to the other side. Then that's,
No, and I appreciate
that
that.
will all come out. You might not like that.
No, I appreciate you trying to keep the numbers low, but it's still going to be, well, they have it at 32 hours and why don't I? It doesn't really keep them protected from that
But
conversation.
that's a policy thing, and that's not for us. You
Okay, that's
basically,
fine.
We're looking at the difference of $2,800 between the buyout versus the reduction in healthcare.
I have issues with the amount we buy out at anyway, but long term, you're
That's-
talking 4 employees at what, $4,000 a piece. That's $16,000 that we're looking to eventually add to the budget.
Yeah.
On a $200,000 budget.
So that's a financial question to consider.
Yep.
The policy question is not.
They can handle it however they like.
That
My
I just wanna
concern is,
clarify that we don't get in the policy weeds, but we do have to consider the financial
yes.
side of it.
Well, I'm just saying, if I choose to not support it, it's not because I don't necessarily appreciate the policy.
Mhm.
There are ways to get to that way. that covers everybody.
But the other thing that I think is important to consider as a budget committee is that it's not like we've had 40-hour people and now all of a sudden we're asking for benefits. The way we describe the employment and the way we tightly manage the budget at the library has been to keep people at 32 hours and try to manage that. And I think when you talk about the town hall, the way they're managing it, they have full-time positions. So it's a lot different. They have full-time. They have options of family plans, single plans. We're not giving the staff those options. We're offering them, we want to support them in having a buyout and as a single plan. And this is what we're offering to cut costs, to keep it down because we're on a small budget. So I think the fear of setting a precedence is it's just not there because it's two different fruit. And
We'll have to agree to disagree, but I understand what you're saying.
So the only thing, and I feel like we're a little bit beating a dead horse, is I'm just looking at it like long-term. So we've got 4 people right now that are full-time that will buy it. So the ultimate cost will be $16,000 over the 2 years.
correct.
So if all 4 of those folks either attrit or either turnover or all of a sudden need benefits, all 4 of those folks are now going to be afforded benefits at either the single or family rate.
No. Or wait a minute,
Yes. Yeah,
the
if
single,
they-
yes,
No, if they need health insurance, it would
Correct.
be at whatever they're.
Right, just the
qualify
buyouts at
for.
the single.
Right.
Could be even bigger impact.
That could be very significant in the long term. So the decision to make them full-time, well, I completely understand the rationale behind it. If all 4 of those folks who are currently full-time then opt into health insurance budget or health insurance, then all of a sudden your budget is substantially larger. That's the only
right.
thing that I
I
look
can
at. from
tell
that
you in the
perspective.
20 years I've been here, nobody has ever.
I get it. I'm just saying it's,
But yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Didn't we last year have somebody add on to the insurance?
We had a potential because
it
of a
didn't.
life change situation and it didn't.
It didn't happen.
Got it.
Okay,
Thank you.
All right.
next.
So you already saw the decrease, so that's fine. So if we look at the other operating expenses, heating oil has gone up from like $1.83 to $2.46, something like that. So that's an increase of $568. And building maintenance and repair is going up $332 based on our 5-year average cost. This is our year to have our septic tank cleaned, so that's an extra $300. Equipment purchases, we added $150 to cover those miscellaneous things that come up every year that we, don't expect. We need to buy a new power supply. We need a new whatever, dehumidifier or those types of things. We are showing a decrease for electricity of 133. And as you may remember, this was our first year to be on town water. So we are actually able to reduce that line item by $324 now that we have real numbers in.
Just one more question.
Sure.
So 970 books and media, we've got a budget of 18,000 for this year. We spent 9,000. Is it the intent to spend the remainder of it?
Yes, it all, a lot of these things load on the end. That's when the contracts come up. And I know there was a list of questions that came out yesterday, and I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that the spreadsheet you have from the town has another tab that's just the library where everything was explained out. So
Which one? So one other question. So the wages that we see in the increases, that's to the 3rd year implementation of the 3rd
Yes.
year.
Yeah.
So then the merit increase. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was curious as to the % rate, but that finishes that. All
Right.
Gotcha. It's probably in here somewhere.
all right.
411. Yeah.
So any new programs that you're looking at for the 2019?
Not in terms of some of the things we've done before. Well, we have Ancestry.com now. I guess that's a new thing.
1632.
Previously, we had added on Mango
Oh,
Languages for online learning and Belinda.com
Missing.
for online learning as well. We haven't added another program like that in. There's a little bit of increase in cost for the downloadables. So for the ebooks and the downloadable audiobooks, which interestingly, they're both still growing, but audiobooks are outpacing circulation of ebooks now. So it's kind of like the funness is worn off and people are back to
That commute.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. They do
I
come
think
in
my husband
handy.
helped drive their numbers.
I do a book every week, actually, for the most part.
Yeah.
So
I know. I only have like a 7-minute commute. It kind of irritates me.
you end up sitting in the car waiting for it to be over.
Like, darn it.
I told my husband he has to go and get a library card so he can double the number of downloads we do. So
Oh yeah, for sure.
he ties me up on the stuff he downloads.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
I think we're good on this one. At least I'm good.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you so much.
All right. Road agent.
Thank you.
You come up.
He said, figures if he waits long enough, you'll do it for him.
I'll go ahead and go through it, but Jack is here for any maybe technical questions. So the road agent, really no changes here. It's an increase of $375. As you can see, we're proposing $36,225. This covers the stipend that the road agent receives. I know a lot of people always ask the question. Jack plays 2 roles. He's the road agent, which is an appointed position, so he receives a stipend for that. At the same time, he's the highway manager, so he's on a salary for that. So he does not need to be the road agent. It could be someone else, and that's what the stipend is. Consulting engineers, we have 2 line items that we have planned to use. The construction design that's where we'll do some design work. Usually it's always something that associated with drainage or a significant road improvement.
Well,
So for this year, I know we'll be working on, is it Robbins or Roberts?
Robbins.
Robbins. There's a section of Robbins Way that if you've traveled it, you know it's very steep. The drainage system underneath the road, we believe, is probably getting pretty close to failure. You can see all the settlements around the catch basins and areas where we think the pipes are underneath the road. And so we're going to be redesigning that stretch of road. Unfortunately, through all the work that was done in the north end, doing the water line extensions, that section of road did not require to have a water line go up it. So we weren't able to open that road up and see if we could make some repairs. So that, we don't know how much that's going to cost, but there's going to be some work that we done this summer, engineering, surveying, again, camera works for the infrastructure and designing the bid specs to put the work out to bid. The other one is stormwater management. So I know we've talked about this for at least the past 3 years, and before I came, you were talking about it because the EPA, so for some of you who are new, stormwater management, EPA actually requires the town to have a permit to discharge our stormwater that we collect from the streets into waterways that have been designated by the EPA as impaired waterways. So we've had to, this summer, we've gone out and surveyed most of our drainage network. So the ones that have definitely dump into those impaired waterways. We still have work to do for the rest of the town, and that will be ongoing in 2019. We had to submit a notice of intent to renew our permit, and that was due October 1st. So that was about a 15-page document, which Jack, myself, we prepared in-house with really no assistance from outside consultants. But what we did do in the last 2 years, the Nashua Regional Planning Commission coordinated efforts to create a stormwater management coalition. So lucky me, I get to go once a month over to Merrimack and sit in a room with a bunch of engineers, environmental scientists, and planners, and we worked all summer on actually coming up with our permit so that all the towns in southern New Hampshire pretty much that are required to submit the permit, our permit application went in with almost identical language, and we're going to be working together over the next 5 years of meeting certain requirements of the permit. So in 2019, we'll be using the coalition. And that, last year we had to pay $2,000 towards that effort. I would anticipate that cost will reoccur again in 2019. We will have to engage outside engineering consultants to do some of the reporting. They'll develop some of the more technical plans relating to the development of our stormwater management plan, which is going to be required in year 1. In addition to that, we will have to start doing some testing of our outfalls this year. So during certain dry weather conditions, most likely in August, we are going to be going to all of our outfalls and hire someone that knows how to do the water sample collection and analyze those results. And it's part of the detection, illicit discharge detection program, which will be also right up. It's very complicated. I'm still learning a lot about it, but the permit now is in place. We've submitted the application, and the EPA is going to be requiring items. It's all laid out in the permit. You can see if you click on the MS4, there's a little link there, and it's a pretty informative document that actually lays out what the MS4 permit's all about, and it lays out the requirements of the towns over the next 5 years, what we need to deliver. So
can you give us an idea? Because again, I'm looking at, this has been requested for several years, and I'm looking at our spend history. In 2016, we budgeted $13,000. We spent $6,568. In 2017, we budgeted $33,000, I think, and again spent $11,568. We seem to be only spending half.
Well, unfortunately, there was a lot of talk that was going on over the last 5 years of whether or not the EPA was going to establish the permit. And it's been, I guess, a very political battle of whether or not, so whatever reason, it's been pushed off. Nobody knew what the permit requirements were going to be. So for like the last 3-4 years, we were carrying $20,000 because nobody knew what the costs were going to be to meet the requirements. And nobody knew where the $20,000 came from. If you open up that document, you'll see that the EPA is saying, be prepared to spend $40,000 to $150,000, I think they say. I'm pretty comfortable that the $10,000, last year, the budget committee, knowing that we had not expended any of the funds, reduced it from 20 to 10. And I'm pretty comfortable that $10,000 is a good placeholder for this year. And next year, or at this point in time, we should be able to actually have more of a detailed breakout of what our action plan is going to be in year 2. Because at that point in time, we'll have, the coalition will be up and running, and we'll have quotes from engineering firms on services that we have to contract out.
So what did we end up spending this year?
So this year, we've not spent any money from stormwater management. The construction design, this year, we were able to Jack and I went directly to the Board of Selectmen and asked if we could do a sole source bid with Continental Paving. And we sat down with their engineers, and we basically engineered the work. Well, there wasn't really any engineering, but I mean, all the work that we did this year, we would just work directly with Continental Paving. In the past, we would spend $10,000 or $6,000 developing a book, 4 inches thick, to put it in the ad, put it out there in the construction summary advertisement and the Union Leader, and we'd have pre-bid openings, and no contractors would come to these bid openings, only Continental Paving. So I really question why we were spending money to have that open competitive process when I don't think any contractor is going to be bidding against Continental in their own hometown. So
we've spent 3,000 and we're on track to spend.
And then what you don't see right now is we did use this line we're currently right now doing a study, a feasibility study, looking into the creation of a Department of Public Works. So I think that contract was $6,000, and we will be charging this line, that cost to this line.
So the feasibility of creating within Litchfield a Department of Public Works?
Yeah, we're just looking at, I know Public Works sounds like a big term, but it's just a term that's usually used, and you can be a small town, big town, but taking a look at what we currently do right now throughout the organization in terms of buildings and facilities maintenance, ground maintenance with recreation, cemeteries, and then what we do here at the town office, fire station, solid waste, what we're doing down there and at the highway, and just really taking a look at all the money we have and everyone that's around, and seeing if there's a way that, I'm not saying we're not efficient right now, but just to find out if there is a better way to do what we're doing. My real concern, I brought this to the board, was that I know that the current highway managers one day is going to enjoy life and retire. And he has years of experience.
He's enjoying life right now.
He's enjoying life right now. And I just think this town's right now is an important time for us to figure out where we want to go with the operation of our facilities and highways and grounds and facilities in the next 5 years. It's going to take a long time to get there. You're going to do little steps.
You don't want to do it at the last minute with a gun to your head? I mean,
No.
we're actually going to look forward. I like it.
No, I don't want to be sitting here asking for 5 full-time people.
We try to look forward a lot, but
So
Doesn't
then
always-
we're on,
doesn't-
Committee.
it doesn't always work well.
so we're on track for 9, and we're budgeting another 23. So we're still not coming close to what we consistently ask for. I guess.
In 19, we'll be spending all of the 13,000, my guess, on your engineering of
That Robin.
Robbins.
That road.
And the stormwater management, we're going to probably mostly spend 8 to 10 grand on work this year in 2019.
Okay.
I think the benefit we had for having the contract to help us with the engineering saved us a lot of money this year, but that's not a given every year.
Right.
So
Yeah, when we get into the good thing is, we may have a discussion when we get into highway maintenance, is that we've done a lot of the heavy lifting in this town. So you've got like 3 more years of, sort of grinding some of the roads and rebuilding them. And then we're going to get into just a shim and overlay type maintenance paving, where you don't really need to have an engineer involved in putting that stuff out to bid if we're going to bid it, or if we're just going to do negotiations with a local contractor. The only area of concern that I have in this town is the fact that our drainage systems are all original for the most part. And we're finding that there's a mixture of galvanized pipe, concrete pipe. The galvanized pipe is failing, as we found in the north end when they were up there reconstructing the roads. We had several failures. St. Gobain paid for those sections of pipe to be replaced, but we just, put a 20-foot section in place and you're hooked onto old pipe. So that's going to be the biggest challenge one day for this town is dealing with all that drainage underground.
And we've already had the old crap moment when it collapsed, right? Albuquerque is an example.
I was gonna
of that. So we need to get ahead of that at some point in time.
Yeah. Yeah, we had 2 sections that collapsed.
Yep.
Yeah.
One was a Brickyard,
Yeah, Brickyard, and then
Oh, yeah.
and then Albuquerque.
That's right.
That was bad.
yeah.
Because it was right at the end of it, right? It was all like, oh.
All right. Any questions under road agent? All right. We'll move on to
Road meeting.
road maintenance.
All right, so see a big drop in wages. What's happened there is we had more. We had funded a position where it was more of a light equipment operator. So the wage was a little higher. The last year, we've got more of a laborer / truck driver on the payroll. So that's where really what you see there for reduction in the salary. And then you'll see health insurance, dental insurance, increase there, new cost. One of the things that the selectmen are they're clarifying in 2019 is that the highway position is a full-time position and it is eligible for those benefits, health and dental, as other full-time employees are. During the transition from an elected to an appointed road agent, the transition, there was never a position taken of the highway position being full-time. So that's why you see a new cost there. 2019, the highway manager will be a full-time position and eligible for those benefits. Contracted services are projected to be down this year, and that is due to the fact that we kind of forget now, but it's due to the fact that we have the new plow truck, which we pay we'll just be hiring a contracted driver opposed to a driver that would come with an operator in their own personal vehicle. No changes, anything here. Vehicle fuel, just based on our projections, it looks like that will be down $1,300. Salt purchases are down, but that's strictly due to the fact that the price dropped. So we're not reducing our quantity or anything.
So I thought based on previous discussions, we go through 1,200 tons, but we wanted some stored in the shed.
So we currently right now, Jack and I just had a conversation today. We're for the first time in many years, he's actually in a very good position. The salt shed is full. I was down there the other day. You cannot put any more salt in it. So we have about 200 tons on hand. Mm-hmm. Our current budget right now has enough money to get us from where we're at to the first of the year. So, this tonnage that we're budgeting, 1,800 tons, which also includes a small amount, but that does include the school contractor will come up and use the salt as well. But that 1,800 tons seems to be working. So.
Right. No, I just thought we budgeted that last year because we needed to build up our reserve, but we didn't go through that much. So if we're already full, there's no room for an additional reserve. So what do we actually plan to, we actually plan to use 1,800 tons? I thought we were at
I
1,200.
could probably answer that.
No, you-
because once the first snow hits,
Mhm.
3/4 of that shed will be gone.
Okay,
So we'll have to fill it again.
right, but that's 200 tons.
We wanted 1,800 tons last year.
They cut
But-
it
but
to
you cut-
14, didn't
You
they?
cut 10,000, I think it was just a bottom line cut at $10,000.
I don't know that we
We
cut it.
cut last year.
Did we?
Yeah.
I look at my notes, 'cause like I say, I thought that when you proposed the 1,800, it was to do the 1,200 you needed plus 600 to bring you up to the reserve. So if we went through 1,200, 1,800 seems high, that's all. That's why I just have to take a look at it.
Yeah, no, we would, 1,200 would be
This,
really low.
this is enough to start the year and then replenish it at the end of the year, sort of full again before we start the year again. So it's the whole
I
cycle.
don't think we've ever had 1,200. It's always been 14.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I'll go with extras, I'll call you and say my road's still slippery, come get it.
Call Jack.
No, I will, because that road's a mess in the winter.
I mean, weather varies every year, but it looks as though 17, 18
Okay.
is average.
Okay.
But we did cut like 100 last year and we still had enough and the shed's full. So,
We were empty by the end of the year. Last year, in 17.
but by the end of 17. Right.
Highway block grant is up $4,700, and that's just, we just used the figure that is just been used when we, the state gives us that number when they set the tax rate last week. So we just used that number. And 19,000. So what's going on here is obviously this will be the first payment for the new plow truck. This year's payment was from the unassigned fund balance. And so the difference between, we just paid the pickup truck off. And that's why you see an increase only of 19,494. Next year, that line will be 28,565. And that 28,565, I've not signed the lease documents yet, but that's sort of the unofficial annual payment.
And block grant is something that's fully reimbursed. So even though
Yes.
it's an increase, it's
It's
a
offset by the
covered
revenue,
increase.
Yeah, that's a good point for anyone that is new to the committee. Just understand that the block grant is a grant. It's 100% funded by the state. So we have to gross budget. So the $676,000, that's actually reduced by the amount of the block grant, say $200,000. We show the block grant funding in the revenue schedule. So it offsets
This is just where you charged, so.
with,
So you said for this year, 573 and 730 had between 24,000 and say 28,500 left. Balance to be encumbered, spent on Page Road. What is that?
Oh, so we're going to, hopefully, we don't run out of time. We'll take Page Road and we're going to go out and mill sections that are real in kind of failure. And then we'll do a fill in those areas. We're hoping maybe that we can, if we can find, we've got some money in the budget, that it's possible that we could then do a 1-inch overlay over the entire section of Page Road, and that now we're done with Page Road. But that's all timing, so we may have to just encumber the funds, and that will be a spring project to do the overlay.
Well, when you do it, can you please let people know? Because I had a very unpleasant surprise at school pickup when I go and I'm stuck in traffic.
Yeah, no, a road like that, we'll send out
Well, it wasn't
code
the-
red, and we'll do that, deploy
There was-
the.
No, there was something at the
signs.
end of Page Talent today. I was like,
That's the state, yeah.
That was a state.
That was a state.
They didn't let anyone know.
I was like,
They could too. They could just put those
I could've
signs
gone
out. I mean, the
downtown.
fire department's putting signs out today for the parade. So I mean,
Stay on Albuquerque, but don't go anywhere on 3A if you can help it for the next 2 weeks or a week and a half anyway.
can you walk home from
The
this?
state's coming in and they're gonna pave that, starting at Page Road to the Manchester line. Right now, they're just preparing by putting in the guardrails They did all of the crossings, any of the culverts were all dug up and redone. So everything is being done for when Pike comes and does paving.
Just
So
a
you're
heads
gonna
up.
be a mess for a good week.
Like I said, they didn't give us.
Avoid 3A.
Avoid 3A. That's all I can tell you.
Go around.
We did talk about putting out a red, right, when we found out when they were gonna do it.
Yeah, if they let us know in time.
I keep trying to find out and it's kind of
It was
dance
just
around
unpleasant
it.
to show up and be like, there's a line of traffic.
The
behind.
minute I do, I'll tell you when you can.
Well, I'll just head up Albuquerque and shoot over real quick.
Yeah,
But it's
stay off 3A if you can.
Oh, it was bad.
Possible.
All right, any more questions from road maintenance? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
You too.
Do you have any advice for what we do with the school buses on 3A?
Oh, good Lord.
That's a,
Calls about the bus stops. Oh, my
Oh,
God.
please.
all right, police administration.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chief. All right. There it is.
So you're the big boy, chief, so I'm gonna let you do handle it.
All right.
Just intimidated by that. Maybe the gun. I don't know.
Anytime.
Okay. How would you like to proceed? Would you like to?
Just kind of run through and
Okay.
if we have questions, we'll jump in and.
Okay, very good. If you look at 4210.10, police administration, there's an increase of 2787, and that's going to be the contract with the captain. Under 111, you'll see the increase of the full-time police officer from last year's warrant article. And that's the 43,227. Under 120 is the administrative assistant. She's in the pay scale with the town. That's her increase. I was hoping that line 140 was going to be much less. And the reason for that, I sent you guys a memo on that. We have an officer that's out on disability from an injury that happened on duty. We had an officer that we hired but didn't make it through the probationary period. So now we're starting at scratch to try and get that person hired. That process generally is 6 months to a year. The hiring process, you put it out in the newspaper. You have to do a testing, a written test. Physical agility, they do the background. Then you have the academy, which is 14 weeks, and then 12 weeks in field training. So it ends up being about a year.
And Chief, when did we find out that he wasn't going to make it through his probationary period? Or she?
It was, we'll say about 19 weeks in.
So where is that in like this year? April, July?
No, this person, was it about 3 weeks ago?
2-3 weeks ago.
2 or 3
Oh,
weeks ago.
Oh.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
So
And we tried remedial training. There was a number of steps that we took because that's not where we wanted to be.
Of course.
So that person is no longer employed. So that position is now open.
Sure. When I first started the budget committee, they were talking, police officers had a lot more overtime because they were filling the spots.
Yes.
And then there was a person that was hired. Is this the that
Yes.
that was going to fill that spot? So there's
Yes.
not as much overtime.
It was gonna be substantial.
So
the-
this person that was filling the time where the other ones were getting the overtime, this person no longer is here.
Right. And that person, while employed, was with another officer. So it wasn't like we had an extra body.
Right.
It was a person in training.
So the officer that's out on disability or whatever,
Yes.
how do we cover that? Overtime?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And do we have an idea as to how long that person's going to be out? Or can you not?
Been
disclose it?
out about 9 months now.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
They're eligible to be out for
18
months on workers' compensation.
Right.
Oh, good.
So that really, it really hurts us. It really hurts us. Yeah.
And Are there I mean, in my world, there's rules about when you can replace someone. It's 18 months
18
before you
months.
can replace. It's not 12
Right.
The
weeks of
problem
job
is
protection.
they're entitled, so here's the dilemma that we're in. He's entitled to come back to work after after 18 months, or within 18 months, he can come back to work. We don't feel comfortable going out and recruiting someone and going through all that training costs and then have the officer come back. At this point in time, we don't have any medical verification that indicates the status of this officer other than they're not eligible to come back to work right now.
I think it's important. This person got hurt on the job.
Understood.
So
Yeah.
if it takes him 18 months to recover to come back to the job, we kind of owe that to him.
Yeah, not
Okay,
questioning
that's-
that, just
okay.
questioning what turnover looks like in the department and whether or not you can hedge a bet and say, we probably will lose another officer between now and the end of his 9 months.
No.
Got it.
So there was quite a bit of reduction in some of the overtime lines. Are we still going to be able to see those?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And a lot of it was, we looked at the run rate over the year, and one of them was the court overtime.
Mhm.
Our prosecutor's now getting up to speed. He's had a couple years in. He's able to negotiate plea deals and stuff like that, so it doesn't require officers to be in court all the time. Where when we had him for the first year, you'll see a lot of
Right.
overtime because
They're in the court spot.
yeah, because it's, a brand new prosecutor coming in and stuff like that. Now it's, he's more versed in the law and when, working with a lot of the attorneys and stuff like that. So he knows when he can make a deal, when he's going to have to call an officer in for overtime to do that. And he's been very efficient with that. So I went over the overtime, went over the court overtime, and I seen that we could make a big savings there. So that's where you see that reduction. The training overtime, that stays flat. The cleaning allowance, that went up $400, and that was with the additional police officer. It's a contractual part of that. Community detail, that we're looking how that was trending. And initially, we had $8,000 in the budget the first time that we tried it just to see how that worked. That was way too much. Then I dropped it down to about $3,500. That was way too little. So about $5,000. We're a little over $5,000 this year, but I think $5,000 is a safe number to be at. The health insurance and dental, those are Troy's numbers that he gets. The prosecutor contracted service, that is the prosecutor's contract. If you remember, the prosecutor before was Lonnie. Lonnie had started out, he was at a higher salary. The new prosecutor came in about $8,000 less than Lonnie. Now he's moving into where he's got 2-3 years on the job, and he's seeing the benefits and the increase in salary in that. 342 is software support. That is up. That's a bad. Looks like 1840, and some of that is the increase in the support costs from IMC, which is our police program software that we use. The CAC, which is number 349, those are that went up $500, and that's a request from the CAC itself. They do the forensic interviews of children that are victims of abuse. We saw, I believe, 11 last year. This year we saw 15. So there's they set the rate for us, and they asked for 2,500. So there was a increase there. Pre-employment screening, that was up $400. The printing was up $300. Line 560, PD dues was up $150. And that was basically the increase in some of the the association costs for myself and the captain. You'll see 610 general supplies is flat. Community relations is flat. PD supplies we kept flat. Everything else, no increase until we go to PD uniforms at 680, which was $500, and that was the increase of the police officer. Ammunition stayed the same. You see a big reduction in the PD equipment purchases. And that is last year, I believe we had to buy 6 or 7 vests. This year, there's only 1 vest that's up for replacement, and they're replaced every 5 years. I did put in a new police shield for $4,000. I'm sure you've seen it in the TV shows where they carry the
Plexiglass kind of.
it's like the plexiglass. So in the event of an active shooter or any situation like that, we already outfitted all of the cruisers with like the large vests.
Mm-hmm.
Now this would be the actual shield in the event we have that. And this would just go into one car.
Mm-hmm.
The following year, I'd hope to get it into another car and then another car and just kind of make that so that every cruiser, every frontline car has that. There's also one that they have that is like a roll-up type one that could be kept at the school for the school resource officer. It could be kept under a desk, could be kept in the office. Unfortunately, it's stuff that you have to prepare for,
Mm-hmm.
even in a nice community like this.
What is the life expectancy on something like that?
5 years. 5 years, I know on the bulletproof vest. I'm not positive on this.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it's something we should just tie into the purchasing of the cruiser. If it's, I mean, it's glass. I would assume it lasts a while,
Mhm.
but then again, everything breaks down over
Right.
time, so I wasn't
Yeah.
sure.
It's not it's not the Kevlar, and that's what breaks down. The reason you have to replace it is because the amino acids in the body eats
Okay.
away at the Kevlar.
Mhm.
This is I'm not sure if these get replaced as often or if they even have to be replaced unless
But the heat in
They've
the
been-
car on an August day, you never know.
you never or the winter.
Yeah, you never know. So it'd be something to look into.
I would absolutely look into that. The other increase is the cruiser purchase. Last year was a 1 year, was a 1 car.
Mhm.
This is a 2 car a year.
Well, I think you might want to explain that because we have a bunch of new people.
Okay, sure. What happened in the past? We've gone back and forth on how to buy cars. Best way to do it. We've done 1 car, 2 car, 1 car, 2 car.
Mhm.
Then we've done where we bought all 4 cars in 1 year, and then did the lease program, and then at the end of it, it's like, well, do you really need 4 cars? And then we've all agreed that it's going to do 1 car, 2 car, 1 car, 2 car. So that's where this is. We switched over to the Tahoe, and there's a couple thoughts on that. It's an 8-cylinder versus a 6. It's a 4-wheel drive versus an all-wheel drive. We've had a number of problems with the Ford Explorers from the oxygen sensors where they're having a lot of the fumes coming back into the cruisers. Manchester got rid of all of theirs, and they switched over to the smaller Taurus. But I found that when I spoke with Chevy, they would take our Explorer, and the cost is neutral. They gave us $5,000 for the Explorer, and the cost of the Tahoe over the Explorer was $5,000. So it's kind of a no-brainer. We're trying it out now. The sergeants are driving that vehicle. They absolutely love it. There's a ton of room in it. If you have an officer that's any size, over 6 foot, the Explorers are very cramped. All your equipment is right in next to you. The Taurus was even smaller. I talked to the Manchester officers that are driving them, and they said they're horrible. So
Can't imagine wrestling somebody into a backseat of one of those.
yeah. Oh yeah, you're trying to shoehorn them in. Absolutely.
Can I ask a couple more cruiser questions?
Sure.
So, and forgive me because I've been home a lot these past couple weeks, so I've had plenty of time to look across the street. So I get that we have 10 cars
Yes.
total. We have 5 frontline.
Yes.
So the cars that will be replaced, are they the 2 oldest cars with the highest mileage?
They are they would be the highest mileage of the frontline cars. The frontline cars then become the secondary cars, like my car, the captain's car. We generally get our cars at 60, 70,000 miles.
So, because there's 2 vehicles right now that have over 130,000 miles on them.
Those are detail cars.
So those just stay detail cars until they get run into the ground, basically?
So what'll happen is this year, we will take those 2 cars, they'll get traded in.
Okay.
The 2 of the older frontline cars will become detail cars.
Got it.
And then we'll get 2 brand new cars and those will replace those.
So how do we make the determination that 10 is the right number for us? And the reason I ask is, again, I've been home for a couple of weeks. There's always 4 or 5 cruisers that are here in the parking lot.
Sure.
So
we run them 16 hours a day. So each one of those cars in general run 16 hours a day. So we rotate them so that we're not running them hot 24. 16 hours is a lot, but we alternate them through the shifts, and there's some shifts that overlap. So there's a potential to see 3 cars sitting in the. You got to understand, we do have the detail cars there that make it look like we have 5 cars sitting in the parking lot, where we actually have 2 cars out on patrol. There may be an overlap shift where we have a 3rd car out on the road, and those rotate through a 16-hour cycle.
Got it. And how did we end up with, when everything is 2000 and your car is one of the oldest at 2014, but we have a car that's a 2006. How is that?
That was actually, I got a grant for that.
Got it.
And it cost us $300.
Oh, good job.
And it's a really good car. So what I do is we use that for detectives doing undercover work. It's an old Ford 500.
Okay.
But it's in really good shape. We got it for we got a grant for $13,000. So I use that for if an officer goes out on training, or if we have a rash of burglaries. It's an unmarked car, so you really don't know. It just looks like a random car.
Oh.
So that's what we use that for. We try not to
Why
put
was it in my driveway?
Wow. And we do look at when we're looking to get rid of cars, we look at the amount of money we're putting into them. Because if you have a car that's worth $1,500 and you're putting $3,000 a year into it, it's time to let's get rid of this car and move it along. And we've had cars that we put 3 engines in.
So only one last question. I promise I'll
Sure.
take the cruisers after this.
No
So
worries.
the Tahoes are V8s.
Correct.
Is that going to increase our fuel expense?
Actually, no. And I actually have some numbers here for you.
See, he was ready for that question.
I'm ready for that one. So I did. I asked my my sergeants to give me some numbers on it. So the mileage, and this is according to when you push the button and it tells you how many mileage, is 14 miles per gallon for the Tahoe, and the Explorer was getting 12. And I'll tell you, and I know why, because I owned a V6. It takes a lot more energy to move that V6 than to move that V8. So less gas mileage. So we actually, it surprised me that it was doing that much better.
Could you just explain what a detail car is?
Yeah, it's when there's road details.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the cars that are parked on the side of the road that we just leave running.
Got it.
So we've already used them up as far as a patrol car and as far as a secondary car. So they go out on detail and we charge $15 an hour.
Okay.
And that goes into the detail fund that, offsets that cost.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And that's basically if they're doing some wire work, and so PSNH will contract and we'll send it up, a car and.
Yes. And what we didn't do in the past is we allow other towns. So let's say Hudson comes in, Pelham comes in, and they aren't able to take cruisers. We let them take our cruisers because we make $15 an hour on them. And if they're doing $8 or 10 hour shifts, we just made $150 and we're not doing anything. They're doing it for us. So
That's a good deal.
I think we've seen a large increase over the past year with that. The amount of money we're getting in from that.
All right, I wanted to go back to 149 PD overtime training. It seems as though we have great ideas about training and a lot of good training that we need to do. We never seem to spend quite what we hope. How are we doing this year, and what are we planning to do different next year?
We're going to be about $400 short this year.
Okay.
Because some of our training comes towards at the end of the year.
Okay.
A lot of our legal updates, because a lot of the laws are written, towards the end of the year, and they come into effect. So that's when we do all of our law block training and stuff like that, our qualifications, and some of our other final end of the year trainings.
Okay. And this doesn't impact, when we bring a new officer on, this doesn't impact the training they need, or?
No, no. They when they go to the academy does not charge us. We just have to pay their salaries.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for police? All right, moving on to police support.
PD dispatcher wages, 110. That's contractual. That's $1,234, and that's between the two dispatchers with their salary increases. We switched 122 and 140. It was more appropriate to show 140 as dispatcher overtime, because that's what it really is, and dispatcher coverage, just zeroing that line out. And that's based upon the amount of earned days that they have a year, and they both cover each other's shifts. PD health insurance was the other increase, and that's a Troy thing with the health insurance. I think that was it.
Any questions on support? All right, so are you also animal control?
I am.
Okay, animal control.
This is a tough one.
Yep.
We're going right to zero increase.
Any questions?
All right, moving on. Any questions? All right. And that is all then.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We got all our questions ahead of time, that's why.
True story.
All right, information technology, 4150.2.
Okay, and John is gonna hold this budget.
Will do my best. So 4150.20, line 341, which is the line that covers townwide telephone and data services. That's all consolidated service. That includes broadband services, telephone services, and wireless phone and data services. That's an increase. It's based on run rate. It also has the expected cost for the new fire department baked into that cost too.
So I actually have a question on that one because it looks like it has both the current fire station and the future new fire station.
So
Will
yep,
one get zero? Will the old one get zeroed out?
that's a good question, because right now we leverage the Comcast service for our telephone service down there that does the health and safety and the alarm system. So we'll actually pull the building and shut it down. The phone systems will also be there. So the cost potentially will go down, but it'll get offsetted by the other challenge we have is that we're continuing to have more and more demands on the services. So every 6 months, we're going and increasing service. So it'll offset itself. But
I was thinking, we don't need much down there once we move out. So
right, but it'll probably I think it's $290 or something a month we pay. It'll go down to probably about $100, but because that's for the broadband service. And the alarm service also takes care of the cable studio too.
I forgot about the cables.
Yeah, they have their own broadband, but telephone's all tied. There's some things that are tied together. So
A cell phone, get rid of it.
you do that in public buildings. Line 342, which is the software support line, just a small increase in 924. That is just the run rate of the cost of the services that we use to maintain our services, provide a web service or web presence, and so on. Equipment maintenance, 630, an increase of 1320. Again, it's based on the cost of the contracts we have. I will just say that that line has also not necessarily gone down, but we've also had a lot of equipment drop off a contract. Because of the aging infrastructure, it's also costing more. So it's not really showing a true delta, but it's the increase was 1320.
So wait, explain that again. So there's stuff that's aging out.
So if you remember, we refreshed the town technology about 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Life expectancy for most of this stuff is 7 years. There is this significant amount of infrastructure that actually is not under maintenance anymore,
Okay.
or will fall off of maintenance this year because we didn't take advantage of a 3-year renewal that we were trying to do, I think, 2 years ago.
Yep.
That would have got us an extra year. So that next year we're kind of exposed. But the issue is that some of that stuff fell off a contract, but the things that were still aging, their costs went up. So it's sort of a net non-difference, but so that's what that is. Line 740 is equipment purchases. That is up 3, and that's because we're trying to migrate from Windows 7 to Windows 10. That's the licensing cost for all the systems we have currently in the building.
That's for everybody.
It should be, yeah. Yep, that's what it's looking like.
And what kind of computers are we getting at almost $1,000 a piece?
So we buy business class, what they call Optiplex. So they're small desktops. They run about $850 for the box, and the monitor, keyboard, and the mains cost about $920 a piece. I typically wait to the end of the year to do the buy because I typically get good savings when I group them all together, or I'll basically encumber the dollars the first part of the year and then spend it all then because
The August back to school sales.
it doesn't work in the business
Have you-
side that well.
Have you thought about Black Friday sales?
Well,
Just kidding.
yeah. If you want me to run around on Friday morning,
It'd
I'll
actually
still
be
try.
Cyber Monday.
Yeah.
Cyber Monday.
So like I said, we work with the provider we buy all desktop is Dell. So we work with Dell to buy, pretty much 5 or 6 or 7, how much I can get out of that money so I can refresh. We went on basically a 5-year cycle. We refreshed pretty much everything up to last year, and now we're back into the oldest ones now again, cycled out again.
So there's 25 of them then?
There's is it 25 computers? There's 45 on our network.
Okay.
So if you had to ask me where they all were, I'd have to go look, but they're all remember, this is not just this building, it's also the highway department, it's the recycling, a little bit of it down in the fire department also, so. Yeah, and the 5 is the number I use, but if I can get 7 out of it, I'll get 7 out of it. It's a matter of how many I can get and want to do. And I did want to just say that, like I said, I don't typically spend the capital money. I do break fixes if I need to, but I don't spend the capital. I'll typically will ask to encumber because it's usually easier to buy it in January than it's try to buy it in December. And I'll usually get a good price to do what we're trying to accomplish. Like this year, we encumbered some money last year because I knew we had some aging hardware. We're going to probably buy 1 replacement server for the back end with some of that money, plus some money we have in this budget or the current year budget. So we just try to be frugal, and it's not always easy.
Any other questions on information technology? All right, moving on to assessing.
It's back to you.
Everybody likes those guys.
Get off my property.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like that.
Let's see. It looks like we're at $50 assessing software for whatever reason. Is that
We're good.
$50?
This is pretty much a contract, right? So-
And we're in a 5-year contract with Avatar.
Yeah, the assessment contract is one thing. The software is
Right.
what our maintenance is for the Avatar.
That's why I can
Assessment.
log in and see what my
Yeah,
value
exactly.
is.
And
and
it's the
my
same.
property taxes.
We use Avatar for that plus a bunch of other things, but
Avatar, just everyone uses that word, but Avatar is a private company that comes to our town,
Yeah.
goes out and does all the inspectional work, goes back to their office, updates the software, so that they have a contract to do that work every year.
When you say they go out and inspect,
So
someone's not
they
home.
do a couple things. They'll all the building permits that are issued in the spring, once a year, they'll go out and verify that work was done, and then make those adjustments to the property record cards. On the same note, they will try to visit, I guess about a fourth of the community, because they'll try to every 5 years, we have to certify our assessing records with the state. So we need to make sure that we've gone out and physically visited each property, make sure that the records reflect what is currently there.
No, if they don't have access to the house, do they guess?
No, they'll come to your house, they'll knock on the door,
Usually you get
ask
a
to
letter
come in.
first.
They'll send a letter.
You get postcards.
And then if you're not there, they'll do a visual inspection of the exterior. And then they follow up with a postcard to try to get into your home. But that's a voluntary thing on your part.
Right. I guess my point is if they don't have access to the house,
So they have to then make assumptions based on the age of the house, based on
What's on
just
your
the
card?
outside, the way it's maintained. So they'll make assumptions on what the conditions are inside.
But don't they also compare it to what's already on file on your card?
Yeah.
So if your information's fairly accurate on your
Yeah.
card, usually you're.
But they do peek at your windows. I mean,
A lot of
if
people-
you-
I have curtains,
if you
so
have
good
a
luck.
brand new kitchen, they're going to be.
Yeah, I
like,
mean,
Yeah.
if you've been assessed and you don't allow them in the house, and I recommend you come to the town hall, pull your card and see what they assessed you at. And if you
Yeah.
disagree with it,
Sometimes
then
it's
file
worth it.
that. Because they will make it something. They said they potentially walk in your porch and they could see a new kitchen. Okay, we're gonna make a decision what that kitchen costs. I don't think that's really what goes on, but the reality of it is it behooves you to go look at it. If you didn't allow them in the house, you didn't have a conversation with them, come in the town hall, take a look at your card and make sure that it's still in line with what you think it's worth or
Yeah.
what the value is.
You know,
Otherwise,
if you have I think, I don't know this personally, but I have to assume that if they don't get into your property and you have a 1960 home and the outside, you can see windows are not in great shape, paint's peeling off, yard's not made, they're going to make an assumption that the interior is in just fair condition. So you're not going, that's going to keep your assessment down.
don't pay the house,
If
don't mow the lawn.
everything's well kept, maintained, tidy, they're gonna, again, it's gonna be based on age of the home.
You're giving the wrong advice.
I know, but I'm gonna be accused now of destroying the
No, but realistically,
appearance of our town. But yeah, that's
Be part of the process, right? If you're, like I said, if your house has been assessed, go look at the card.
Okay.
You'll have an opportunity to dispute it and get it adjusted. I talked to someone the other day that said they came to my house, but they said my I think I had a room over the garage was finished, and they basically charged it as a finished room, and it wasn't even finished. So they went and came to get an abatement. But
that happens quite often. If they see curtains,
they're going to
above
assume
the
it's finished.
garage, and it appears that it's finished upstairs, they're probably gonna pick that up as finished space, and then you get this increase in your tax bill, and you have to file for an abatement.
Especially if it's increased square footage in your house.
Yeah.
So ultimately, you pull the permit, build the garage or something over it. You may have not finished it, and now they're charging you for it like it's fully finished. So
All right, so that's a 5-year. We budget 1/5 every year, and at the end of 5 years, we are finished and start over.
right, and we cover the totals every year
Yep.
to the 5th year, so it's all
Fifth year.
in.
that makes sense.
All right, next, legal expenses. So I think one of the questions was, where are we with legal expenses with the PFOA issue?
Every year it's the
We're
same question.
by far not done. I think there was a good explanation, so.
Yeah.
Be this or this, you decide.
So the goal of the town, if you didn't have a chance to read the explanation, the goal of the Board of Selectmen is to negotiate a settlement agreement directly with St. Cobain. So that we could come to an agreement on what we believe are damages that have occurred to this town due to the contamination, then that would avoid a long, lengthy legal process where we would have to, file an appearance at court and seek, the damages through that process. Both scenarios have a totally different price tag.
And we won't know for 2 years which one we're into, or 18 months.
So yeah, if we're able to, like I said, I think I'm estimating that we're a year, 18 months, 2 years for trying to negotiate a settlement. We'd be looking at a much longer period if we aren't able to come to terms. I will admit that in the conversations that we've had with St. Cobain so far, and I do believe both parties, along with the state being involved, in some role. We have, to some extent, agreed to focus on getting the water lines installed and getting people connected to safe drinking water. So that kind of was, so we just recently had a strategy meeting with our legal counsel, and we'll, our goal is to sit down face to face with St. Gobain before the end of the year.
So we still have about $28,000 left. So our goal is by the end of the year, we'll sit down with them and
Spend all that.
Yeah, and it can cost $5,000 to sit down, just the work that goes into just leading up to that meeting.
Hopefully
Now we
get
have,
good interest.
in this number, there's just legal, our general legal counsel, which is ongoing costs. But
Right, but for anyone who's new, that's $50,000.
that 50,000 is a,
2.5 years ago.
Well, hopefully it'll be offset at some point before we die with something. with the settlements. It just seems like it keeps dragging. It's like, for the love.
legal things
That's the legal
drag.
systems.
Well, I'm pretty sure I was at this table last year telling you they're waiting you out and trying to see who will quit first.
Probably.
You're not quitting.
Not yet.
All right. Personnel administration, 4155.
That's all related to previous salaries and stuff, right?
yeah, and then you've got, what do we have for policies that are still out there? So our unemployment and workers' comp, I didn't remember doing this, but so I've actually put a 10% increase into the budget for workers' comp. That policy is a big policy, and it should be available again mid to late October. The rest of this stuff is really payroll driven, and as usually the increases are due to wages that were granted in 2018, both non-union and union.
So the more information tabs have estimates, but it looks as though it's for
I may have not updated that. So last year's,
2018, yeah, and the other one I believe also I
Yeah,
looked at it and it was 2018, and so I was a little
that's
confused.
last year's information. Yeah.
So what's that one for?
The
I'll populate that link.
Primex workers' compensation, it's member contribution,
A lot. Just put in a lot.
2018 is what's highlighted. So
No, that link will be updated with the new letter that we get from the insurance policy.
but we haven't got that yet. It's coming.
That's right. That's old. That's last year's
Okay.
data.
That's why I
Sorry.
was confused. Both of them were 2018. All right.
And then the wage expenses for the merit increases that we're,
Still holding it at 15,000. And that does, like I've said, that encompasses all of the payroll increase that happened to the income taxes, New Hampshire state retirement. So
but it's really covers 6 months because it goes.
it's only 6 months.
So it's really kind of technically a $30,000 increase for the following year.
But we,
For 2020, it would be 30,000.
Yeah.
Roughly.
But but it results in potentially $30,000 increase in wages and benefits.
I think, I think, I don't know if budget committee reduced it, if we had to reduce it, but when it got put into the operating budget,
15 was the number. 'cause
15
it
was the number
30
that just kind of fit. So it's stuck there now for the last 2 years.
originally.
And it's worked.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's.
I don't know if it's going to work, at some point we'll have to increase it a bit, but it has worked.
Or decrease it. It's not always increasing.
I
I hope all the performance don't go down that bad.
Well, yeah, but the difference is, remember, it's a pool, right? So not every employee
Yeah.
gets an increase. So it may be a year where not every employee gets an increase, or it gets a smaller pool of people who get impacted.
And there's, you have to understand too, the library was able to fully implement their 3-year process. We were only able to do 2 years. So Year 3, we went away from just the adjustment of trying to get people to where we felt they should be.
Right.
And then we were supposed to be doing performance. So in year 3, we went to the performance with a maximum increase of no more than 3%. So, but with that being said, the reason I brought that up is that at some point in time, you are going to have some employees that will get to that max rate.
They won't get it, right?
All right, moving on to planning board.
Increase of $650.
And that's directly a longevity payment to that assistant. So so we contract our planning services out to the Nashua Regional Planning Commission, and their rate is not forecasted to change this year. So they've held that rate, I think, for the last 2 years or 3.
And do we have any particular task we're looking at them to do next year?
And they're still doing, I think what they've done, instead of trying to update like the master plan all at once, $30,000 price tag, they're doing sections. So the planning board does a couple sections a year.
Okay. Any questions on planning board?
Saving my questions for the $600 zoning board.
Okay, then we'll move on to the $600 zoning board. Zoning,
Really, Jen? There's no increases, nothing, it's flat.
I'm kidding.
that was her point.
That was my joke, John.
It's getting late.
Exactly.
All right, nothing on zoning. We'll move on to cemeteries.
Oh.
And one of the weird things about New Hampshire law is you're not required to have police, you're not required to have fire, but you are required to take care of your cemeteries by New Hampshire law. So it's one of those weird leftover ancient laws.
Well, it becomes a health issue if you don't, right?
Oh, maybe that's why it's in there. I don't know.
So just wanted to point out, because I know some of them have been on the budget committee for many years, this town has been very fortunate in a couple sections in the budget where we've been able to utilize the prison community service program. We have not been able to use that program for the last 2 years, I believe. So we still have the language in there, but the plan is if we're not able to, if the program's not available this spring, then the trustees were going to try to use a service organization or Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, something like that, and see if they could pay them some money to do the spring cleanup and fall cleanup. And if that doesn't happen, then they would turn to their, a landscaper or someone who would do
I
Oh,
saw the Boy Scouts across from the recycling center.
They do a little bit. The Scouts have painted fences in the past. and done
Yeah,
some
so I could see it.
little
I
project.
could see that being something that people could do.
It's a nice project. Knock it out in the weekend, makes
So
a little fundraising.
It's one of the badges, right? Community service.
All right, town insurance. So again, the backup in there is from 2018, so I
Yeah,
assume that's
Until I
coming.
get the policies, I've not.
So I just have to ask, how often do we use the deductible? Because it kills my opinion. We budget $2,000. If we don't spend it,
Oh,
next year we budget again $2,000.
the $2,000. So we carry 2,000 because we have a $1,000 deductible.
Yeah. How many incidents do we have? How many incidents do we average in a year, say over the past several years?
Well, I'm always hearing about something, but it's always in some other department, right?
Yeah.
It's always carried out in some spot.
Well, we must, because our actual expenses are equal to what we budget. So we must.
There's always something. It's always
It's probably, I could go back and take a look. I think fire
Fire has.
Fire had something. Police had something.
We just had next for the police, which is $1,000 right there.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it does happen. I mean, I know the highway, not the highway, but the building department car was.
We backed in. Yeah,
Backed
we backed
into-
into something once with the.
So it happens.
Well, so my concern was, we budget $2,000, but then we don't use it. But apparently we have a history of using it. So I'm just gonna leave it at that.
All right.
Okay, how many times you pay your deductible?
1,400.
I am not. I can't. I'll say I don't even want to say how long I've had my license, but I have not had to file.
Okay.
Don't say anything, don't
No,
just
no,
jinx
no,
yourself.
If you rear end me coming out of here, I swear.
I'm forward facing. I'm not going to rearrange. Like,
All right, advertising and regional associations.
very cautious driver, despite the speed.
Yeah, and so I don't have, so for this, all right, printing, that's our voter, okay, so printing is the voter's guide that we do, the insert in the Hudson Litchfield News. No increase there. Public notices for whatever public hearings or legals notices we give is up
Mhm.
250. And NRPC dues, I don't know if I updated this link.
I know. Oh, actually,
I
it
received.
is, but it looks as though it's backwards.
2017. Yeah. So that, I don't know why. I think they forgot to change the date on the top. This one, I believe is correct.
But we don't have the update for the
July
NHMA.
2018 to June 30, 2019. But I don't have NHMA yet.
And
But
there's,
it really doesn't change. I
and
mean,
there's still a good resource you tap into regularly.
All right, any questions? Moving on to mosquito district.
I believe there's no change there. The contractor is continuing to honor the same price.
So general supplies, advertising, and public information, that used to be bat houses. Are we buying other stuff? Like, what is it now? Is it?
It's
Yes.
they got to do flyers and stuff like
Like,
that.
yeah, signage and flyers and.
It's been pretty quiet for the past few years, and if you notice this fall, you started seeing we had to do a barrier spray, which we've not done for a couple of years. And then if you're watching and listening to what's going on around the state, there was some activity picking up with this West Nile. So you just never know what's going to happen, but that would be for those temporary signs and just notices.
And the last one is health agencies,
I don't know if mine's updated.
which is.
So that's going to be an interesting one.
How much was requested?
So what I've done, the
39.
board just met and discussed this. All the links are updated, so you have correspondence from all the agencies. I've populated a column 2019 with the agency requests. The board of selectmen are going to have a warrant article, and at this point in time, they're going to list all these agencies and leave it up to the voters.
So, and the
So you
being
vote for
all-
one? Or
Well,
deliberative again.
a deliberative session, that's where people would need to come and have a discussion about all these groups, and some of them, the funding could be removed.
That's always a good idea in theory.
We
We don't generally have that discussion.
But you know what? We always advocate for letting people have a say, so we can't
No, it's
say have
fine.
a say, but then complain that they don't come or.
No, I know. My concern is it's all up or all down. That's part of it.
Well, in March it would be, yes. If
Yeah.
someone comes in and deliberative and has a passion about one versus the other, and they get the room to decide, that's the opportunity. I think because of the increase, we've done it a couple of times, and I think this was the year we're going to go just back into the operating budget, but then when you saw the increased ask,
Hey, I'm always a fan of the Warren article. So
I thought it was better to go back out again.
So are you gonna request the full 39,000?
So I think the warrant article is being
Will
written up
be.
as that way with all the
will list each
explanation.
agency.
Yeah. And it's deliberate, like I said, voters can come in and cross off or reduce and neutralize the increase if they want to.
I think that's the way to do it, because rather than pick and choose, I like home health and hospice, but I don't like bridges, it gives everybody an opportunity to weigh in on all of them. And
yeah.
Yeah, I would just say,
50% of
one of
what-
my concerns is when you look at it like this, you see each individual account, and, Big Brothers and Big Sisters is, well, it's $500, sure. But Greater Nashua Mental Health Center is $19,795. That makes me think it's not going to pass.
But
so that's an.
so I guess the
interesting
discussion is
thought.
that someone could reduce that amount at deliberative session.
Or
that
does it
net
make
thing.
sense, and I know people get weary of too many articles, or does it make sense to do an article for each of those
It's a lot.
requests?
Hey, we used to have 35 warrant articles.
Well, I don't think we want to go back to those days, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's an argument to say, put these all at the tail end of tail end of the warrant, and if people get fatigued, they just don't
They don't
touch it.
Well, I
support
mean,
it.
so is there one that's really driving the majority of the cost then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what if you
of
separated
it
that
is-
one out?
Right. Half of it is Greater Nashua Mental Health Center.
Yeah.
When you look at the
19,795.
numbers though and why they're requesting that amount, it
They-
didn't just
so
come
if you
from
look-
nowhere, but
There's a little, if you
No.
put your mouse over the blueprint, you
Yeah,
get
when
the
they-
letter, yeah.
you
There's
see
there's
the
supporting
amount that
details.
where it
And
comes
usually
from
they
the
have
paid residents.
justification. for the thing. There's one group which just met with the board. It's, you see a 0, it's the last one at the bottom, Anne Marie House.
Yeah, that's new.
So we just received the presentation. They're new. They've never come forward to request funding before. So they didn't indicate a dollar amount. So the board will have to have a discussion about this at their next meeting if they want to recommend a dollar amount.
And will there be any way to let the public know the detail other than hoping that they're watching this meeting? I mean, well, they actually don't even have
Well, I
access to
think-
these links, right?
I mean, we can certainly, because of the nature, we can put it up on our social media and give the details in those links. We can try to do as much as we can.
Mhm.
I mean, I have no problem. I don't think the board would to take all the supporting details and create a page that has all the links and say this is what people are asking for. I don't know what kind of traction we'll get, but
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea. 'Cause otherwise, you see $19,000 for mental health, and you're like,
Is it,
you support the idea, but $19,000, why that amount? That seems like a lot.
And just to explain what this is, so there are nonprofit agencies that support Litchfield citizens for different regions, mental health, court-appointed special advocates. I think that's for children. So they each have a different thing they come in and do for the community of Litchfield and for its citizens. So what they look at is how many citizens or children or household did they support over the past year? And if they had to put a monetary cost to that, this is what it would cost. They're not charging you, but they're saying to support our continued ability to come and help the community of Litchfield, we would like you to add this to your budget to support our involvement.
That's what I was wondering. Just reading a couple of the letters, can the warrant be worded so people just don't think they're asking for this money? These agencies have supported, and this is the amount
15
they've asked. Well,
families and 20
approximately
households.
this amount.
Yeah.
That's why we're at. Can that be worded into the warrant, or is that not
I
appropriate?
don't know if we can be that descriptive. I think, but the problem is that right now the warrant's constructed as all these agencies is one lump sum. There's not, the warrant can't
Yeah.
be a page long or that
I
separate.
think if
article.
people, I think kind
We'll
of
list-
you said people
we'll
might just
list
be
each
concerned they're
agency.
just
Yeah,
asking
warrant,
for the
yeah.
money, not.
Mhm.
It won't be a question with just a lump, the
Yeah.
39,000. We'll have a list of the agencies and the dollar amount.
Right. And I think when you look at some of the things on here, $500, $300, $800, $500, everybody's making sense. Even the Red
Yeah.
Cross, $3,800. It's when you get to the
Yeah.
$19,000 one, the $6,500 one.
Well, if you think about
And-
the $19,000 one, they in their supporting letter, they said they supported 58 residents of this town. So you think about mental health, that's probably a reasonable cost, right?
100%. I want to spend that money. I want the
Yeah.
voters to approve it. I just don't know that they're going to have the knowledge to understand how many people in our town are actually benefiting from these services.
And that's where it comes in, the selectmen and us,
Yep.
and
Got it.
people have to
I'll shut
advocate for getting information out to people, so they
Yeah.
do understand it.
Got it.
All right, any last questions on the budget presentation? So in 2 weeks, on October 25th, we will meet and we will start going through account by account and making changes or not. So be prepared with any place you want. And if you have further questions between now and then, please email me and I'll make sure that those get to the town hall and selectmen so we can get some answers. Moving on, reports, school business. This was actually a leftover item we got the school end of the year report in August. I was supposed to put it on the September agenda. I forgot about it. And last week, Liz McDonald was very concerned that we were misrepresenting the number that went to offset taxes, which again reminded me that we had not discussed that. So I wanted to make sure we did have this on our agenda so we could officially discuss it. It was sent out to everybody. Corey, I believe, sent it back out to everybody. So when you look at actually page 3, that is where you see your end of the year financials audited. This was July 27, and the unassigned fund balance was $626,350. So that was unspent from the school budget. That went towards offsetting the school tax rate.
Well, there was the encumbrance up for kindergarten, and then the tax rate.
So there was, yes, that did not include $152,670, and it did not include $196,402, which went for kindergarten and some of the end of the year projects. So yes, the 626 was after those.
Oh, it was
after those. And that is why the school tax rate was able to come in at much lower.
So I wasn't crazy, is what you're saying.
No, you were actually you were accurate. You were accurate. So just
And I think we did go over this last meeting, but I think there's just confusion.
I think she was upset that I was saying that we had 600 in addition to all this. So it sounds like a lot of money.
No, I think
But
the
it was
question
a
was
lot.
around the year. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
there was
I think there's
confusion as to whether it was
misunderstanding.
the end of 2017 or
Okay.
money based off of that's.
Okay.
yeah, I mean,
And 2018 just started. That's where I think the question came in.
really, when you look at the fund balances and the encumbered balances, it was almost $1 million. 975,422. So just
So keep that in mind as we go through the budgets. That's all. That was my request. Was as we go through the budgets, keep that in mind because this is not an isolated incident. Every year there's a lot of money left over, and we have those every year. We have a fight over 200 grand,
and we do have.
we could go further.
Is it in here? Because I think it was in one of the documents where it did call out a couple of years.
I think you sent an
You
email with the
sent that
summary.
Yeah, that had a couple of years history in it. So that just gives you an idea year over year what some of the history is. So,
So as reductions are proposed, just keep an open mind. That's all I ask.
so are there any questions on that end of year audited report?
But thank you for resending it.
Any member input? No public input? If there's nothing else to come
to
before the board, there's a motion to adjourn by
Second.
Jen and seconded by by Carrie, I think.
Mhm.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. October 25th, we will be back here making our adjustments.